Good afternoon, everybody. It's another scorcher here in Israel, and it's another edition of the Israel Brief brought to you by Lay of the Land with me, Rolene Mark. So let's take a look at those top stories making headlines today, and we begin with the latest in the Ben & Jerry's saga. And Ben & Jerry's board chairperson Anuradha Mittal says she is not an anti-Semite. She took to Twitter yesterday to tweet out that she's proud of Ben & Jerry's decision to not sell their ice cream to what they call the occupied Palestinian territories, but states that she has received vile abuse and accusations of anti-Semitism, but she's not an anti-Semite. Well, Anuradha, we beg to differ. First of all, you have blocked the majority of Jewish voices that are challenging you, including from reputable organizations who have not been dealing out vile abuse. While there might be some who have been aggressive and even abusive, the vast majority of people trying to get her to understand just how offensive this decision is and how hypocritical it is does not mean that she is being abused. And also gaslighting the concerns of the global Jewish community does make you an anti-Semite. And this would be the opportunity to remind Anuradha that she proclaims herself an activist that stands up for indigenous rights. However, she doesn't seem to understand the indigenous rights of the Jewish people. And this boycott has gotten to the point where we've had people like Mayor de Blasio saying that he will no longer be enjoying his favorite Ben & Jerry's flavor, Cherry Garcia, and at least 5 US states saying that they will look to reenact their anti-BDS laws. So, Anuradha, let us just remind you that your singling out of the state of Israel, that you're pushing for boycott, contravenes the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. That is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism. But what makes the story particularly, or the plot thicken, and definitely not sweeten, is the fact that Ben & Jerry's board received some advice from a very nefarious character. This is Omar Shakir. Omar Shakir advised the Ben & Jerry's board. This is according to NGO Monitor, who monitors the activities of non-governmental organizations like Human Rights Watch. Now, Omar Shakir is the director of the Israel-Palestine branch of Human Rights Watch. He is a virulent BDS supporter and was actually kicked out of Israel for his actions supporting BDS, which contravenes Israel's anti-BDS laws. In the last couple of months, he has pushed for 2 reports, one being the already debunked report calling Israel an apartheid state, where he came up with his own definition of apartheid, which is offensive to South Africans who were victims of apartheid. And the other was one released yesterday, which accused Israel of war crimes during the May flare-up. Now, the IDF have commented on that, saying that all that the Human Rights Watch report does is recycles old claims that have already been disproved. Meanwhile, at least 90 Knesset members from across the board, from the left to the right, have signed a petition directed at Ben & Jerry's, where they say not only is their call for a boycott an injustice, but also contravenes Israel's anti-discriminatory law, which bars discrimination of any kind based on where a person resides in the country. Well, that's food for thought, and we hope that Anuradha Mittal digests this little morsel of information. In other news, but keeping with the subject of anti-Semitism, an anti-Semitic slur was scratched onto the offices of the US State Department, very close to where the envoy on anti-Semitism has their office. Both Secretary of State Antony Blinken and US President Joe Biden condemned this and said there is no place for anti-Semitism in the United States of America. And in continuing with our getting Olympic fever, and we're all looking at our archer today, having much better results than anticipated. So come on, guys, bring us a second medal. What we can report is Israel's Prime Minister's office condemned a Palestinian official from the Palestinian Olympic Committee for advocating for boycotts against the Israeli team, calling it racist and against the spirit of the Olympics. Meanwhile, the International Olympic Committee have said that they are concerned and will be monitoring the trend of judokas forfeiting their matches rather than competing against their Israeli counterparts. They say that they will be monitoring and acting accordingly. The Algerian judoka was kicked out of the Olympics by the Olympic Committee, and the International Judo Federation took both his and his coach accreditation away from them. We are still waiting to hear what happened to the Sudanese judoka who pulled out of his match. But, if you want to settle a score, why not take it to the mat? And this would be a good opportunity to tell that Sudanese judoka that Sudan and Israel have normalized relations. But we do have a glimmer of hope with the Saudi Arabian female judoka who is set to have her match against her Israeli counterpart on Friday. And she has said that she intends to defeat her Israeli rival. And while it's all in the spirit of the Olympics, and maybe there's a little bit of a political push there, we wish Bahatzlacha to our Israeli competitor, and may the best woman win. But at this moment, we want to give a special salute to a real favorite of Israel, Said Mualem. Said was the Iranian judoka who had to defect from Iran for refusing to forfeit his match against Israeli sweetheart Sagi Muki. Yes, we call him a sweetheart because everybody loves him and we are all super proud of him. He refused to do that and was forced to defect. He has now gone to Mongolia, and yesterday, competing under the Mongolian flag, Said won his bout to claim a silver medal. We are all so proud of you, and were very moved when he dedicated his medal to the state and the people of Israel for the love and the positivity that we have shown him. And we will continue to kfel all over you, Said. We are extremely proud. And that takes us to the end of today's update. You can check out our original content on our website at www.layoftheland.online. We're on Facebook, where many of you are viewing this. If you haven't given us a like or follow, please do so. And if you like this content, please share it as far as you can. We have those sensors to try and get around. If you are on YouTube, please click on that red subscribe button. We have those censors there as well, trying to clamp down on what they see as conservative content. And if you're on Twitter, hit us up with a follow at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. That's at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. And if you like our content, please share and invite your friends to view it as well. So with today's edition of the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief brought to you by Lay of the Land, and we'll meet again tomorrow.